Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique.
And I'm Christina, and we are the Connected in Glass podcast.
Every week, we will feature interviews with glass artists who speak to their creative processes and overcoming challenges.
These conversations are real and raw. We hope that by sharing these stories, you're able to find some connection and know that you're not alone. We just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to our podcast. We're super passionate about this project and work for hours every week to bring you this content. So if you'd like to help support us, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/connectedinglass. Also, please consider joining our Facebook group, Connected in Glass Community, where we continue the conversations from these episodes. We'd love to hear from you. This episode of Connected in Glass is sponsored by Diddy Clips. Diddy Clips has changed the way we film our glassblowing videos, and we're proud to be working with them. Today, we're interviewing Stephanie Carmichael. She's a glass artist currently based in Portland, Oregon, who's been working with glass since 2015.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Sweet. Okay, so first let's just skip the glass part of your life for a minute. You want to tell us a little bit about where you live and what you enjoy besides glass?
Yeah, I live in Portland, Oregon. I've been here for, 9 years. It's the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life. I'm a Navy brat, so I've moved a lot. This is, I think, my 12th or 13th place that I've moved to. So I don't have a quote unquote hometown. But besides glass, gosh, is there anything else? I like music and nature. I go on a lot of walks. Things have, with COVID definitely slowed down my life, which I'm not mad about. It definitely helps reevaluate things that you like to do in life and whatnot. I have ADHD, so my liking things is always like, I like it and I'm doing it hardcore for a week. And then I'm like, shit, I just spent like hundreds of dollars on this thing and it's sitting in the corner. So I have a lot of those types of likes, like chainmail, clay, crocheting, embroidery, anything you can do. Probably tried it.
I already have so many questions. Okay, wait. So just I already have so many questions about everything that you already said, but let's just start with how you started working with glass.
Okay. So I was working at a local head shop out here, Mary Jane's. They're pretty big. They've got like 15 stores in the area, but they started a production studio and we're taking on apprentices. So I was in their first round of apprenticeships and there was just a couple of us. So I worked there for, I want to say 8 months or so, like almost not a full year. I left, went back there and just kind of have been working on my own stuff since then. They taught me, like how to do chillums and pipes, like just like pretty standard entry, I feel like, for pipe making. And I'm very thankful for it. And I met a lot of people that way. It was a pretty big warehouse with a bunch of people working in there. I work by myself now, though, which is great.
You work out of a studio at home or like your own studio now?
Yeah. Before that, I was working in a shipping container with another guy in his backyard for, a couple of years. Very nice in that sense of like, it's in the city and I can go and do things. And he's like such a grind machine that he's just like focused in, and I don't have to like have all that noise that studios have. My first one, I'm like, everyone's blasting EDM and I'm just like, I can't, I can't do it. But yeah, I'm at home now. I have just a garage that I've converted into a studio, and I'm never going back to working with anybody ever again.
I can so see that with the distractions, especially with your ADHD. Like, my gosh.
It was pretty intense. Now I painted my garage. black and like another dark color. So it's very like tunnel vision into my bench, and it's great.
Can you tell us, so you started learning production glass, kind of standard glass. How can you tell us a little bit about the style of work that you're doing now and how you got to that?
Yeah. So one of the guys who, well, I guess he kind of like ran the apprentice program, Chris Hurley, and he like one just like as a glass blower is amazing, his like precision on things, and he's very perfectionist. So I gained a lot of skills from that. But he gave me basically some advice, like seeing how I work and what I'm interested in. He's like, don't do like the production stuff. Like you should be doing like art pieces, like go up to Seattle and like take cold working classes and like just like explore all of that. And I just like really took that to heart. And I was just like, no production, we're just sculpting. When I first came to Portland before I moved here, my uncle took me up to Seattle and saw like all the glass up there, like all the soft glass, and I was blown away. And I was just like, this is amazing. These are huge, like huge pieces. And I always wanted to do it after then. And it's hard to get into the hot shop side of things. So it's nice to at least get into borosilicate and play with those ideas.
When you left that studio, did you take classes other places to kind of get the skill set that you wanted, or did you work through that on your own?
A little bit of both. My first, so I do female figures for the most part. Started off as normal bodies with 2 boobs as a way of, you know, I had like tons of body image issues, you know, and I felt that a lot of people who were making figures, while they were like really talented and beautiful pieces, I just didn't feel like they represented bodies. Like they're like itty bitty tiny things, and like, so I just spent a long time using my own body as a reference. And you can like, if you ever walked in on me like doing things, I'm just like feeling my body in the studio, like how does this fold, and like how many hands away is that, and like trying to figure it out that way. And that has been really cool. I took a class with Amber Peak and Emily Marie, and they taught me hollow sculpting, and I just kind of have been self-teaching myself since then and getting little tips here and there. But I really want to take like some more classes. I need more education. I think it's really important.
We all totally do.
Yeah. You never finish learning glass.
No, you don't. My favorite thing is seeing the progression. Like I'm always looking back at my first things being like, you're ugly, but like, look where you have come.
I have a question about the bodies that you're doing. So it's something that you're working through in your own life, and you're also making it into art, and it's so personal and it's so vulnerable. Do you feel like you ever get pushback from people on that because they're not comfortable with their bodies? Or do you feel like the people that you're drawing are coming to you because they want to be like within that fold of body positivity?
I definitely think the latter. And I haven't had any pushback on the way I sculpt my bodies by any means. I've had like, I don't know, egos come in for things that just like weren't even true. And I'm just like, I don't even know who you are. But when I do customs, especially, I like to ask, you know, do you care what the body looks like? Do you want it to match yours? Do you want like a big belly, small waist, big boobs, little boobs, like anything like that? Because I want people to feel represented. And it's glass, and I understand that like when you sculpt, like it starts in a certain way, but like I think you can really push yourself to make things that are more, I don't know, just like show some bellies. Like I just want to see some rolls.
Bodies are soft.
Bodies are soft. And that's what I think is so interesting about glass. It's like it's hard as fuck, you know, like it's tough. It's like this almost like putting it in terms of like gender, it's like kind of like this masculine, like it's got this like hardness to it. But when you sculpt things that are like nature or like bodies and just like more like light things, I like the juxtaposition between the two, just like those soft rolled bellies, but like it's hard as shit. And I think that's cool.
Were the bodies something that you were working through while you were in the other studio, or was that something that you started to develop once you were able to kind of grow on your own space?
Yeah. So somebody had given me a lesson on it, and then I was just like, I'm making bodies from now on out. And he was just like, you could do that. And I was like, okay. So I was just like, and now here we are. And then I make them with triple breasts, sideshow influenced, sort of like galaxy babes. I don't know. They're fun for me to make too. And at the time I was like, how do I kind of step myself outside of that traditional, a lot of people are making human forms. It's like the first subject like ever, So it's fun to see other people too, like try and push themselves out of those boundaries.
So you're saying that you do customs for people. How does that work? And is that so customs can be so challenging, like communicating with somebody about the possibilities within glass, and how do you even begin to price something like that when you're almost sounds like you're having a little bit of a therapy session talking about like how they want to see the body represented?
Yeah. Well, for pricing, oh gosh. So for those in particular, I've given myself a baseline of like the lowest I'll ever charge for them. And then from there, it just kind of, I really work with people on like making sure like the colors, and most people just give me free reign though, which is really great. And with like very minimal direction. So that kind of helps me with the pricing, because I can just be like, well, then it's going to be this amount and I'll put this amount of work into it. But pricing is really hard, as everybody on your podcast has said. And I have been listening to your podcast to find out how people are pricing things. And I'm like, okay, you guys are all still in the same boat as me. But I have something to say on that. Business plans, like spreadsheets, like I did not do that in the beginning. I am just starting to do that. And that is so important. And it's really helped me like figure out my pricing on like other things besides like my art pieces. But pricing's hard. It's really hard.
So when you have an idea or even a custom, how does your creative process start? Do you draw things out? Do you sculpt it out of clay? You mentioned that you work with clay sometimes. Or do you just work from your brain?
I mostly work from my brain. Most of my customs are based on things that I've been making. Every once in a while, I'll get something out of my comfort zone. I did an Astro Boy pendant for somebody recently, and I definitely was just like, okay, like let's draw it a little bit. It's got those like flippy hairs, but I go off of either my brain or photo reference, and I only think I have like 4 pages in my journal that have like drawings. I wish I worked that way. I feel like things would come out more like in that desired look, though I think it's really cool to be able to take an idea, work it, and see where it goes, and have like something completely different than what you had started out doing. And you can always go back and make that piece that you had originally intended, but now you have another piece that's like equally as cool and different. One of the lessons I was taught when I first started was if you mess something up or you don't like something that you're making, just keep making it, because you don't know how it's going to end up. And you'll also learn lessons for when you need to redo it. So that's been really nice to have in the back of my head of like, just keep doing it. You're going to be fine. It will work out, or it won't. I'll do it over.
That's such a good lesson.
Yeah. That one, I pair that one with okay, you've made one, now make 100 more. Those two like, like very same line in my mind.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so when you started glass, did you know like this is something that I'm gonna do forever? Or did you ever second guess yourself or feel that you like get stuck or fall into ruts?
Yes, completely. So I'm gonna give a little background history. So I have a bachelor's in fine art with photography. And when I was 13, I was like, I'm going to be a photographer for life. Like, this is what my thing is. Like, hello. Went to school for it, sucked the soul out of me. And then I stopped doing it. So when I started to do glass, I was really nervous that that was going to happen to me again. And I had like talked to my uncle and I was like, well, like, what if I like put all this money into it and like, it didn't work out. And he was just like, well, you got a bachelor's in fine art and you don't do anything with it. I'm like, fair. So it's kind of, I think, at least for other people, try it on someone else's thing and then like see how you feel, because it is expensive. And it turned out I didn't have to put as much money into it at the beginning as I had initially thought, which was really nice. But I have never loved anything as much as I love glass. And I'm like, I've always like wished that I never went to school, but like at the same time that led me to the glass. Like, but I do get into ruts. Before the pandemic, I was in like a super rut. I had been making the like babes, and I was like in this like time period where it just like was not making any sales. Like no one was buying any of these. I was just like accumulating stuff, and I'm just like, what's the point of me making things if like I'm just gonna keep like I'm just getting a bigger and bigger pile of things. And I was like, maybe my time has like, no one cares about them anymore, and I like need to reformulate what it is that I want to do and whatnot. And then the pandemic hit and I moved out of my studio, and then my partner is just like, you know, really supportive and sees my vision. So we got a house, and we got a house that had like a detached garage so I can do all the things. She works with wood sometimes, so she built me a bench and did all this stuff. And I came back in with this like fresh mind, and it was so nice because I was losing my mind also, just like not being able to do anything. And I had all of these ideas just like running through my head, and I'm just like, I can't do anything. This sucks. So I think I finally got my studio back in maybe like July or so last summer. And I don't know, I didn't want to make a single babe. I was just, we're exploring new ideas. I want to figure out how to sculpt more. So I started just doing like miniature sculptures for like pendants, basically trying to get some of my skills down. But it really helped clear my mind and give me like a fresh start, and also be able to make those babes again. I don't feel like I'm just, I don't know, in that rut anymore. It's so nice. I also have since then got like actually diagnosed with ADHD, and I've on my like 3rd week of being on medication. And that's been interesting in the studio. Like really get stuff done. It's wild. People work like this. Yeah.
Okay, so, but I just want to point out that you went to school and you got a photography degree, and I guarantee you use a ton of stuff that you learned to your career right now, and you probably have such a leg up from all of us that have to figure out how to take darn good pictures of our glass, right?
Yes and no, because it had been so long since I have done photography that like I have definitely forgotten a lot of things. And I had the camera, but I didn't have anything else, because the type of photography I was doing was not like product photography or like anything like that. I was really interested in like fine arts. My thesis, for instance, it was called Haunted. And it was a photo series that I played Philip Glass's Dracula music over. And it was a series about like you not being able to run away from your demons. And so I like became a demon myself and like haunted myself and this stuff. So it's just like all like, it was all like gritty, black and white, just like, so I actually applied for a market, this really big market in town, and I didn't get in, but at the bottom of the thing was like, you know, if you're wondering why you didn't get in, we're happy to give you feedback. So I was just like, your rejection makes me want it like more. So tell me what like needs to be changed in order to me to be in your market. One of the things was like photography. Have you ever tried hiring a professional photographer to take pictures of your glass? And I was just like, I will change these things, but I kind of am. So I'm working on that. Recommendations for people: get white plexiglass. It will make your glass look nice, and you can light the background and it will light the glass. And that is my tip for the day on that.
So I was wondering, I want to say cool, but like so interesting how much you moved around growing up. And I was wondering how that impacts your life perspective now.
Oh man, I think it really, moving around really affected me in so many different ways. One, like talking to people is actually was harder for me. I was like introverted as a kid. And then, you know, I also lived, so I'm a Navy brat, which is why I moved around so much. When I was like kindergarten age, my dad was stationed in Japan. So like I've lived overseas, but I've also just like Midwest, West Coast, East Coast. And it's so wild, like the difference of people in all of those areas is really cool. It's so nice to be able to like network with people like that though, because I've moved around so much. Like I really do know like people all over the place. And like with the punk community especially, it's a small niche. And like my partner, she just, whenever I like show somebody who's like in town or like do this or like show how everybody is connected in that, she's just like, wow, you guys really all know each other. And it's the same way with the glass community, I think. And I love that. I'm really trying to change my glass community, especially with the last year and seeing a lot of people's true colors. So if you're listening to this, come find me if you like my dog. Yeah, I'm just trying to find a lot more. I'd love to find queer glass blowers around or just like-minded people.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you felt like the glass community was welcoming to you as a queer person, and also as a person that you do like to use she and also they pronouns. And I was just wondering if you'd be willing to or comfortable sharing any bits from that.
So when I started blowing glass is when I started to be more public about like coming out, I guess. So I didn't really come into too many issues. A lot of people were very welcoming. I feel like the thing that I ran into the most was more just about like, oh, there's a girl in the shop now, or like, you're gonna go work, you know, all of that. Like there was this one guy in the studio when I first started, and I remember being in like, you know, like conversations with everybody in the shop, standing in a circle. He'll look at everyone else, but he would not acknowledge me in this conversation. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't really like you, but like, what's your deal? Like, I have no skills, so you can't be threatened by that. Like, so I'm like, I get it. I find that to be the thing that annoys me the most. It's like, I'm not interested. I'm also like now I'm in a long-term relationship. Like I have no interest in anybody. I've come into things online about not necessarily me, but like I just seeing other people talking about anybody who's not straight or cis, as there are some very large names that, you know, very vocal about that. And I've gone through my Instagram this past year and I've just been like, I can't. And it makes me wonder a lot about a lot of things in the community. It's like, where can I go where I'm not going to end up like in some sort of weird situation? It doesn't make me want to go and collab with people, or I don't know. That's why I'm trying to like reformulate my own community right now.
And it's hard when you're questioning your safety.
Yeah,
like it's your safety.
And I have some friends who, not here in town, but like, actually, I think they both live in Florida, and they get threats all the time, like specifically one because they call people out. I'm like, you want to talk the talk, but like, if you're not comfortable with somebody sharing what you're sharing, like what you are sharing, then I don't know. Anyways, there are definitely some people who I like really don't want to be around at all.
And so you're kind of figuring out how to deal with that by just like ignoring them and then like creating your own space just for other people that might be struggling in the same way, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've started working at a supply shop here in town. And whenever somebody comes into the store and they start talking about stuff like that, my eyes light up and I'm just like, yes, let's be friends. Hi. I don't know what that really means, but like I exist and you exist. And like, maybe one day we can, I don't know, just like have coffee or just like do anything. I feel like I'm really lacking in that right now, especially working by myself, which I love, but it does take that part out of my life of meeting and talking to new people in the glass world.
Like COVID alone, no connection.
No. And that's also so I started taking this job in December. I was just like, it's my social time. And then I only talk about glass. It's like the only thing that comes out of my mouth. And I'm like, yes, this is great. I've learned so much, like just like little tips and stuff too. But yeah.
Like what's kind of strikes me so much is that at least on the East Coast, we kind of think of Portland as being like very queer friendly and very welcoming and such a large glass community that like the fact that you're struggling to find like-minded people is honestly kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling this way so much before the last couple of years, but Portland is definitely welcoming, like queer wise, as like a city itself. No matter where you go, there's always going to be somebody or like a group of people who aren't like, we have the Proud Boys just right over in Vancouver, and I find that there are definitely some glass blowers with those same minds out here, and it's unfortunate. But there are people, like, I know I'm like going really negative right now, but there are totally people out here that are like really amazing. And like everybody I work with has been really great, and they're out here. A lot of them have, tucked themselves away, I feel like, with everything over the past couple of years, but don't be afraid. And you're right. There's so many glass blowers out in the Pacific Northwest, like not even just Portland. It's this whole freaking area. And you can't say that everybody would be on that, like almost like progressive type of mindset. It's something I've had to learn, I guess. I thought everybody who just like makes art is just like, yes, we're all empathetic. Oh wait, no, we don't like trans kids, and like, let's go kill them. No, not about it.
What are some really big lessons that people have taught you?
Safety is so important. I have so many fears. Chris told me when I first started blowing glass that he was like working on the lathe one time, and he just like kind of put his glasses down a little bit just to see something and a piece of glass jumped out and went into his eye, and he still has a piece of glass in his eye. And it was like just like right on the edge. So I'm like very cautious about that. I had a mom come into the store a couple weeks ago telling me that her kid was like blowing glass and stuff, and told me his setup. There's like not a single ventilation, no glasses, so many other things. When she was like, please bring him in. Can I I'll write a list for you. Like you can go on North Star. They've got like a whole thing on their website of like, this is what you need, basics. Yeah. I also, every day I think about how much Chris really ingrained a lot of things in my mind, good and paranoid, but like bubble trash, like you need ventilation for that. You're going to like have holes in your lungs and die early. I'm not into that. I don't know about y'all, but
like silicosis. No, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I could not remember the name of that.
Yeah, no, totally.
I feel like a couple that I've mentioned are big ones for me. The make at least 100 more. The never stop working if it's not turning out the way you want it to, unless it's like, sometimes it's a little beyond. And then not something someone has told me, but I think will help other people. The way that I think about actually like working with glass, like when I'm describing it to people who aren't glass blowers, I tell them that it's like I'm painting with fire and gravity. And, you've got to, if it's like a piece of paint, you like blob it on and you like bring it down. So it's the same thing with glass. You need to heat up that section that you're wanting to move, but also heat up where it's going and play with the air or like the gravity and your breath with that. That's something I think it took me a really long time to like understand, and just having that in my head when I'm working really helps me especially when I'm making my bodies, because they are so like, there's curves and and whatever, but it works for anything you're doing. And I think I really hope that helps somebody. It helped me. Also, let's see, for beginner people, your shit's gonna suck. And it's okay. Like, you have to suck in order to get to where you want. I'm on year 6 and there's still a long list of things I suck at. And I'm putting them all on my pedestal this year to not suck at. But you guys talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and I'm going to segue into that. And that is one of the biggest things I think when I started, was just like, all my friends are like, oh my God, this is so cool and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, oh, but like, it's not really great. It's like, I'm still learning. And I think putting that pressure on yourself will eventually become not a good thing for you. It's going to affect you in the long term. I think you have to realize that you're not the only one who, like, you have to start somewhere. And I think, you say you've been blowing glass for like a year and you're still like not where you might think you should be, or like you think that other people will look at it and be like, I see all of these flaws, like your skills aren't like all there and like this and this. But I think it's really important to tell yourself, or to look back at yourself where you were like a year ago. Like, you couldn't do that. Like, you should be really proud of yourself for, you've come so far, you've learned this skill. You have to have those muscle memories. You have to be able to like figure it out. And if other people are mean to you on that, that's their problem. And I feel like just got to focus on your own journey. I think that was one of the things that I've struggled with, was like looking at all of these people, whether they started around the same time or even not, just like, wow, you're so talented and that's so cool. But especially after listening to your podcast, all of those people are just like, they all have the same imposter syndrome. I guess that's what everybody has it. And once you realize that, it will be a little bit easier on you, even if you still continue to have it yourself. Just knowing that most artists are, even if they're a little tough people, they're sensitive, they've got emotions, everybody has it. And imposter syndrome, I don't think ever fully goes away, because I've been having it my whole life. And all you can really do is, at the end of the day, do you like it? Are you proud of it? And if no one buys a piece you're proud of and it's been there for a while, guess what? Now you got a new piece. That's the way I do it now, at least. It's just like, I have a rig that I'm looking at right now and I'm like, oh, it's not like the best one. I know that like if I posted, I wouldn't want it out there, but now it's my piece and I look at it every day and I still love it. And not everything needs to be shared with everybody.
You stare at it long enough and then you figure out what you'd want to change with it when you do get to the point that you want to remake it. That's what I like to do. I love to stare at my stuff forever.
Me too. Right now you can't see it, but I've got like all my shit just like around me and I'm in my dining room. Yeah.
And I feel like some pieces aren't necessarily about the product, but about the progress you're making.
Yeah. And I feel like for me too, with the imposter syndrome, I like to do the sculpting stuff and I like the artsy things. But like my skills on certain things for like rigs or like complex things like for that just like aren't there. And it does make me anxious with like somebody wants to do a collab piece and they're like, let's make this a rig or whatever. And I'm just like, can I send this back to you to do that? Like, it's going to be not great. That's one of the things I'm working on this year, is regaining those skills and getting them better. But I guess anxiety ties in with that, and depression too. Though that time where I wasn't selling anything, I wasn't on any medication at all at that time, like no anxiety or ADHD or anything like that. And that like really took a toll on me. I like wasn't going to the studio. I was just like, I must suck. Like nobody likes this stuff. Like I don't know, like, is it been overdone, or like people just don't want to see my work anymore, or somebody is doing something similar and people like that better, or whatever. It's sad. But I wish I had all of these thoughts back then, because it took me a long time to realize all the stuff that we're talking about. And I struggled a lot with that for years.
And there is, just saying outright, there is no shame in having medicine that helps you regulate.
Yeah, I am so happy for it. Like I wouldn't have been able to do this. Like it would have been a lot more like more frozen times. And so the anxiety meds have helped with that. And the taking ADHD medicine though, it's still new. So I'm still excited to see how that plays in with like my glass and whatnot. I've been working on a wholesale order this week though, and I've never been able to focus on an order so well. So that's been nice.
The marvels of modern medicine.
Right. And thanks for sharing that personal stuff, because I think that when strong people like you share it, then it helps to ruin the stigma for other people.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any shame around any mental health. Like everybody has it in some capacity, even if it's just mild, like it's still there. It for me, it was debilitating. For others, they can at least like understand. I feel like other people who are artists who can't like get themselves out of the bed and like work for like a couple of weeks. It's normal for people. It's just the way the world is, especially now. Especially now. Everybody's got that. Sadness.
Okay to not be okay.
Because life is not linear either. You're gonna have ups and downs and everything.
I'm so glad we had this conversation.
Oh my gosh.
Me too.
Are there any things that we didn't go over that you wanted to talk about, or any closing notes that you want to make sure people hear?
I guess stay true to yourself. Fuck what other people are doing. Do what you want to do. And everyone thinks they suck at one point or another. You just got to push through it. And then eventually you'll see that you're not sucking as much. I mean, not sucking, but I'm using that word a lot. Not the way you want it to look. Yeah. All right.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was so good. We really, really appreciate you. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Connected in Glass. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more information on the artists we interview and for updates on the podcast.